It's a question that can send a jolt of panic through just about anyone, right? One day, you realize the evidence seems to be, well, everywhere.
I mean, those moments are super personal. And let's be honest, they're kind of scary. You just look in the mirror and you know something's different. If this sounds at all familiar, you are so not alone. This is actually one of the most searched health topics out there. So, what is really going on behind the scenes? Let's break it down. Okay, so first things first, let's just set a baseline here. Our hair goes through these natural cycles of growing and shedding. So losing, say, 50 to 100 hairs a day, that's totally normal. Most of us don't even notice because new hairs are always growing in to take their place. The real concern starts when that number climbs, or when you start to see actual thinning. That's our cue to start digging a little deeper. So where do we start our investigation? Well, we're going to start inside the body. A lot of the time, hair loss is kind of like a check engine light on your car's dashboard. It's a signal that something else is happening internally that needs a little bit of attention. And this is something I found absolutely fascinating. One of the biggest, most overlooked causes of sudden hair loss is something called telogen effluvium. It's basically your body's reaction to intense stress. And we're talking about major life stuff, losing a job, a serious illness, even just a long period of really bad anxiety. Your body essentially hits the panic button. But here's the thing that makes this so confusing for people, and it's a big one. It's the delay. A major stressful event happens and your body pushes a whole bunch of hair follicles into a resting phase all at once. But the hair doesn't actually start falling out until 2, maybe 3 months later. And that time lag, that's why so many of us never connect the dots back to the original stressor. But here's the really good news. This kind of hair loss is almost always reversible once that stress is under control. All right, next up, let's talk about hormones. I mean, they're the master regulators of pretty much everything in our bodies, right? So it's no surprise they have a huge say in our hair. For women, big hormonal shifts, think pregnancy, menopause, or conditions like PCOS, are really common triggers. And for men, it's usually a byproduct of testosterone called DHT that's the main culprit behind male pattern baldness, which, by the way, affects around 50 million men in the US alone.
Think of your hair follicles as these tiny, super demanding factories. To function, they need a steady supply of specific nutrients. And if they don't get them, they just shut down production. Simple as that. It turns out some of the most common nutritional deficiencies are directly tied to hair loss. Low iron is a huge one, especially for women. Vitamin D deficiency is incredibly widespread. And, since our hair is literally made of protein, it makes sense that crash diets can have a really visible impact really fast. Okay, so we've looked at the signals coming from inside your body. Now let's switch gears and zoom in on the culprits that are acting directly on the hair follicles themselves.
Okay, let's talk about the big one. The one most of us have probably heard of, androgenetic alopecia. It's really just the fancy scientific name for what we all know as male or female pattern baldness. And this one is all about your genes and how sensitive your hair follicles are to certain hormones. The key thing to know here is that it's progressive, which means it tends to get worse over time if you don't treat it.
And what's so interesting is how differently it shows up in men and women. For men, you get that classic pattern, a receding hairline, maybe forming an M shape, and thinning right at the crown. For women, it's usually more diffuse, kind of spread out. It's often first noticed as a widening part or just a general lack of volume right on top of the scalp. But what happens when it's not your genes or your hormones? Well, in some cases, it's actually the body's own immune system making a mistake and attacking the hair follicles. This is an autoimmune condition called alopecia areata, and it's not rare. It affects a staggering 6.8 million Americans, and it usually causes sudden, patchy hair loss. And then, of course, you've got a whole list of other direct triggers to think about. Some can be a side effect of medications or medical treatments. Others are rooted in scalp health issues like psoriasis. And yeah, then there's the damage we can sometimes do to ourselves with things like really tight hairstyles that's called traction alopecia, or just going a little too hard with the heat and chemical treatments. Okay, so with all of these different possibilities floating around, how do you know when it's time to stop worrying and actually see a doctor? What are the signs that you need to call in an expert for your investigation?
Well, here's a really simple checklist for you. Number 1, if you are consistently losing way more than that normal 100 hairs a day. 2, you're seeing actual bald patches or a hairline that's clearly receding. 3, the hair loss is happening along with other symptoms like you're super tired or having skin problems. And 4, the shedding just started out of nowhere and was really dramatic. Any of those are a big signal to get it checked out.
Look, if there is one single thing you take away from all of this, let it be this. Getting on top of it early is everything. For almost every single cause we've talked about, the sooner you figure out the root problem and start doing something about it, the better your chances are of stopping the loss, and in many cases, even regrowing your hair. That window of opportunity is widest right at the beginning.
So, after digging into all of this, what's the final takeaway? What's the bottom line? Honestly, it's about shifting how we think about this whole thing.
This is so important. So just let this sink in for a second. Hair loss is not vanity. It's your body trying to communicate with you. It's sending you a signal. And whether that signal is about stress or your diet or your genes or something else entirely, the first step isn't to cover it up. It's to listen to it. You see, when you start to understand the why behind it, everything changes. It stops being this source of panic and anxiety, and it turns into an opportunity. An opportunity to take a closer look at your health, your stress, your lifestyle. So the question to leave you with isn't just, why is my hair falling out? It's, what is my body trying to tell me?